Camille Lasker. I'm really excited to have you here today. You're a co-founder of Holi Scoops. And let's just sort of jump into this. So
let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. This is a first time we're meeting, which is really exciting. Most of my guests I have known, so it's sort of really fun to do an interview with a stranger.
Great.
Although we have overlapping history, so that works. So to answer your question from earlier, what am I doing here and why am I interviewing you?
Correct.
So I started the Lynn Cohen Foundation 26 years ago after my mom passed away from ovarian cancer. Mm-hmm. She was 48 years old when she was diagnosed and 53 when she passed away. Mm-hmm. I was 21 when she died. My little brother was 15.
Wow.
So about 2 years after that, my family started the foundation just as a knee-jerk reaction when she passed, knowing that we had to do something and to keep her name alive. No idea where it would go, what it would do. If anything, it was just a way for people to feel good after coming to the funeral and donate, as opposed to like a million muffin baskets coming to my house. Mm-hmm. And then about 2 years later, I was living in New York with my then boyfriend, now husband. And I was working for a startup in the educational technology space, and they asked me to start their nonprofit side. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. I mean, we were a bunch of 20-somethings in the dot-com boom. There was like no idea what we were doing. And I started to sort of get into it. And then I was like, I have no passion for this. My passion is for women's health. And so I left and I said, I'm going to make the Lynn Cohen Foundation something. I was 23 years old. I had no idea what that meant. And I changed it from a private family foundation into a public 501c3. And I just sort of, like you do when you start the best advice I got was run it like a company and treat your donors like investors. So I don't even know how I did it. It was just very organic. And I look back 26 years later, and we found a hole in the market, so to speak, which was preventive care for women who are at increased risk for breast or ovarian cancer.
Preventative is
That's key, right?
So key.
And so we created these clinics that are housed within hospitals in LA and New York for women who have a history of cancer in their family, women who carry a genetic mutation, women who have had cancer, women of Ashkenazi Jewish descent. Mm-hmm. And they go through our clinic and have access to the highest levels of preventive care, meeting with gynecologic oncologists, breast oncologists, genetic counselors, their genetic testing. And then they are seen for the rest of their lives and with a plan to keep them healthy. So that's why I'm here. And about 10 years ago, we started the Peony Project, which is the educational platform of the foundation. And then through COVID, when I was home and really bored, I couldn't have events, I couldn't go out there, I decided to create sort of a technology end to that educational platform, thus the SEAM, Series for Education, Awareness, and Medicine. And I was doing webinars and seminars, which I still do, and this podcast. And so I'm a lot older than you, I'm 48, and my passion is women's health, wellness, and preventive care. And to me, preventive care has a lot to do with medicine and being on top of your health. And I'm an advocate for traditional doctors and physicians. But I also am an advocate for the whole spectrum of what preventive care means. So to me, it includes nutrition and fitness and lifestyle and mental health and everything that keeps us, feeling really strong in our bodies and in our soul and our muscles and our bones so that we can lead a long, healthy life, or at least know we did everything we could to go down the right path.
Totally.
So I came across you, and I eat really healthily, to the very much dismay of my 3 teenage boys. My youngest son always says, is this something you made for you or something made for me? Is it real pasta or not? Uh-huh. So I always love to try new products and new foods. And I have a sweet tooth. I've barely eat sugar, but I'm obsessed with, chocolate with no sugar and all these things. And I came across Holi Scoops. And I love it. I have multiple pints in my freezer at all times. I'm a 3-spoonful kind of gal.
Sometimes that's all you need.
It's just that taste, right? And I just wanted to dig deeper and find out, really why you started this. how you started it. What was your impetus? I know you've had health issues in your life, so I want to hear about that. And really also there's this real entrepreneurial side of starting this company, because lots of people say they want to do something. Lots of people are like, ooh, I wish there was a really healthy ice cream that was also delicious, but they don't actually do it. And I think it's a big deal to follow through, have a product in your hands. So I'm going to stop talking.
No, that leap is very scary. And I've been coming up with ideas my entire life, but taking that actual leap to entrepreneurship was a very big deal. And I had to be pushed. But once I was pushed, I was very happy I did it. But just a little bit of background. I grew up in LA. I was at USC for undergrad right away. I knew that I wanted to, at one point, start my own company.
Why? How'd you know?
I was just always coming up with ideas growing up. I tried to convince my science teacher at Brentwood to start a solar powered, I don't know what I was convincing him of at the time, but I was constantly coming up with ideas. And out of college, I joined a few friends of mine and we launched a social media mobile app. And so that was kind of my first taste of entrepreneurship. We ran out of money after a year and a half. So from there, I went on to work for different tech startups. Okay. And it was always a startup. It was always, a crazy environment, ups and downs. But at a certain point, I was like, I don't feel passionate about what I'm working on, the mission, the product. And I'd love to do something that I just is a passion of mine. Yeah. I'm a complete sugar addict. I love dessert.
What stage were you when you were growing up? Was it like the Snackwell stage, or was it like Oreos? Like, what were you eating?
Oh,
we had all the
Oreos,
fake stuff in my house, which was disgusting.
So my mom didn't let anything fake into the house. Okay. No food dyes. I wasn't allowed to have the Fruit Loops were, a dream to me. And she at one point started letting me have Cinnamon Toast Crunch because it was the only cereal without
we
food
got
dye.
Honey Nut Cheerios.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So maybe that would have, made the cut. But all organic. And then when I went off to college, I went crazy because I hadn't been exposed to all the bad stuff.
This is, as now a parent, this is what happens. There has to be some moderation. But I get where your mom was coming from. And if I had grown up 15 years later, I think that would have been the same in my house.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. And I was at Panda Express every night. I quickly realized I didn't feel good. Yeah. No, I've had terrible digestive issues since I was little. I was lactose intolerant. I had to cut gluten out. I had SIBO at 15. Oh, wow. I followed the FODMAP diet from there on out. Yeah. I was probably—
Which is a really hard diet, by the way. My oldest son has gastro issues, and he's been on low FODMAP diets, on and off. It's not easy. It's not intuitive. It's a very hard diet, especially back then. Now there's more options, but that was not such very tricky.
People thought I was crazy when I asked for gluten-free options.
Yeah. No garlic, no onions, which is the base of and you go out to eat. It's really hard.
I'm very careful with garlic and onions. Yeah. I realized that because a lot of my friends at this point have SIBO, and we all react to foods differently. Some of my friends cannot eat chickpeas. I'm fine with chickpeas.
Okay.
Garlic and onions are the death of me. Yeah. Other friends can eat garlic and onions. So
why do you think a lot of your friends have SIBO?
It is.
I'm not questioning. How is that? That's so awful.
Yeah. Everyone has bacteria issues.
God.
And you know what? I think it's most of my girlfriends. I don't typically hear my guy friends saying that they have SIBO. I don't know
Probably
what that
they
is.
wouldn't try to test themselves or figure it out and talk to you about it. Anyways, I get that.
That might be a female thing.
Yeah. But that's amazing. Yeah. Awful.
And so I did a few rounds of the antibiotics, but it just comes back again. And so for me, sugar was a big thing. Sugar would set me off. And so I've always worked on cutting back the sugar. I've also always had Hashimoto's. And so doctors have been watching my thyroid since I was little. I wasn't on meds until I had thyroid cancer, but I wasn't doing as much research around Hashimoto's, but my mom was so on top of it that she'd be like, no dairy, no gluten. Yeah. And then at 26, I went to my internist. They were like, your neck looks a little swollen. I was like, okay, probably my Hashimoto's. And they did an ultrasound. They're like, okay, we see, a larger nodule and let's do a biopsy. And from there, they weren't positive it was thyroid cancer, but they were pretty sure. So then I went and did the surgery. I got half my thyroid removed, which the first doctor, and this is like a big thing for me in the medical space, like always get multiple opinions.
Yes. And ask lots of questions.
Oh my God, yes.
And don't be afraid. I mean, this is a huge topic on itself, but yes.
Yeah. And so the first doctor I went to was like, we're going to remove the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
And then I got a second opinion and he was like, that's old school thinking. Mm-hmm. We are removing half and we'll watch your other half for the rest of your life and you're going to be fine. But at least you have half your thyroid working and you don't have to completely rely on the medication, which is a really big deal.
Yeah.
And so I was able to do that. It was a fairly quick recovery. But from there, because you have half your thyroid, you can't do radiation. And so for 5 years after, which I just hit my 5-year mark a couple of days ago, for 5 years after, you have to be in hyper mode. So you have to be on a higher dose of the medication. And I think that was probably the most challenging piece too.
What is it? Pills? What is the medication?
Yeah. So it's your typical thyroid medication. I'm on like a version of a Synthroid. But because they had to have me in a hyper state, I was really I was just super anxious and super sped up. And it took a while to get used to. Mm-hmm. And that's just, as an alternative to radiation.
Yeah.
So now at this point, I actually just went to the doctor and they're like, okay, it's time to start lowering that medication, which also scares me because now I feel good in my body. I'm like, oh God, I'm going to slow down. There are points where I'd start feeling sleepy and tired and they'd have to adjust my medication. So it's just all a balancing act. And
your thyroid is a big controller of your whole body.
It's everything.
Yeah, it is. I don't think people know that. And your thyroid is a very crucial organ in your body that does a lot.
It does a lot of work.
Yeah.
It does a lot. Yeah. And so I'm just grateful to feel balanced because I've talked to a ton of people on medication. They're like, yes, some days I'm terrible. Some days I'm okay.
Yeah.
But it's definitely been a journey. So shortly after that, I started working on Holi Scoops with my business partner. She's been through a ton of health issues as well. And on the mental side, she's dealt with depression her whole life. I've had debilitating anxiety my whole life. Like in high school at Brentwood, I would go home because I would have panic attacks and I wouldn't stay at school or I'd stop driving my car. And I tried medication at one point, but I didn't want to be reliant on medication. So I did like a meditation course at UCLA in high school. And then I started going to Hypnosis Weekly, which really did it for me.
Wow.
Which was crazy.
That's amazing.
The first session, I felt my heartbeat slowed down for the first time in months. And I started like hysterically crying to him. And he was like, what's wrong? And I was like, I feel so weird. I'm actually calm.
Wow.
And so the more I did that, I kind of trained my body to be in a more relaxed state.
Yeah.
And he did something very cool, which was connect my favorite scent. It was like a vanilla perfume at the time to the hypnotic state. So when I'd start feeling anxious when I was out, I'd just take a sniff of the perfume and I'd go back into.
How old were you at this point? This was in high school?
High school into early college.
And that's amazing. To take such control of your health and wellness and to really, I'm sure your mom was encouraging you to do this.
Definitely.
But to go down that path, I mean, that takes a lot of self-confidence and fearlessness, especially dealing with anxiety. It's like, the opposite end of the rope there. I mean, that's a big deal. That's a really amazing
I know.
feat.
Looking back, I'm like, I did all of that at 17, 18.
Yeah.
It's cool. My mom is a therapist. So, she's very on top of these things.
Yeah,
and
you're lucky.
Yes, very lucky. I've been in therapy my whole life. Have been talking about anxiety and therapy my whole life. So at first was trying just like cognitive therapy and seeing if we could work through it with that, which was helpful. But I think I needed that.
Yeah.
That extra practice.
Yeah.
So that was that. And I think how I got into this, my business partner. So we've had we've experienced, physical health issues, mental health issues. And for us, Holi Scoop embodied all of it. Holi is short for holistic. We wanted to look at the whole being, both physical and mental. And that's where the, clean ingredients and functional ingredients come into play. So we incorporated adaptogens, which are essentially healing herbs and mushrooms that balance you out mentally. And we incorporated those because we were like, we want to, tackle the whole thing.
Yeah. So how did you come up with Holi Scoops? Like you could have, if you were thinking about some sort of, healthy dessert, how did you land on ice cream? I mean, it's weird to even call it ice cream, but how did you land on Holi Scoops?
When we met each other, I was making these like dessert energy balls at the time. I thought I was going to scale those and that would be my company. And she was like, no, we're not doing this. Halo Top was blowing up and I was eating a pint a night because they would advertise it that way. They were like, eat as much as you want, you can. And it didn't taste great. It tasted fine. Didn't taste amazing. And definitely didn't feel great. I was bloated and bent over after every time I ate it. So we basically were like, there's a market here. They're clearly like this better for you ice cream is doing very well. Like we could do it. We could do a better version. And that was Holi Scoops. And so we formulated for 2 to 3 years. It took us a while. And who did
you work with? Did you work with a nutritionist? Did you work with scientists? How did you actually make the product?
Yeah. So we tracked down the prior formulator from Ben & Jerry's who did their whole vegan line. She was in London at the time. And so we would work with her. She would essentially send us a formula. I got a little ice cream machine at home. I would test it, send her notes back. And we did this like 100 times over.
Wow.
And eventually we tried to do it with 0 sugar at first, but with ice cream, the sugar is what makes it scoopable. So it was just like a rock hard product and it was not edible. So we added a little bit of date in, but we still kept it keto friendly, very, very low sugar. Yeah, that was that. Eventually we got to the point when I was graduating business school where the product, we tried this like 100th version and we were like, this is delicious. We can move forward.
And what was the first flavor?
The first flavor, we were just trying to make a classic vanilla at first. But it's tough with vanilla because the base is coconut and it's very hard to mask the coconut taste. And vanilla is not that strong. So from vanilla, we went with another classic. We did like a double chocolate chip. And the chocolate definitely masked the coconut more.
Yeah.
And then from there, we did a coffee and from there, a peanut butter chip.
I like the peanut butter chip.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
And then how did you then like put the whole product together and how did you sell? Like what was the next stage after hitting that 100th, scoop, let's say, and both thinking, oh, this is it. Like, then what do you do?
So in the meantime, we've been working with a branding team that is out of Mexico that's so talented. So we went through various versions of our brand design with them and finally landed on something we loved. We knew we needed some money just to, our first goal was, okay, let's get it into Erewhon. Let's start with Erewhon. Let that be the test.
Yeah.
We'll do a ton of demos. We'll talk to a ton of customers. You get the right eyeballs. And so we were able to just do a Kickstarter. I received a few grants from the UCLA MBA program, and then we did a Kickstarter, put in a little bit of money of our own, and we were able to launch it at Erewhon, and it was so surreal seeing the product on the shelf.
That's amazing. And did you do the thing where you stood in the aisles and were giving out like samples?
Yeah, so we've done a ton of demos, and that really helped because we got all the feedback we needed. We went back, we tweaked the formula, we tweaked the packaging. And fairly soon after, within a month of launching, Erewhon, Sprouts Market, basically said, you're the smallest brand in the ice cream space we're talking to, but would you be open to launching nationwide with us in a couple months? And we were like, we think. And so we essentially had to scale up very quickly, had to start fundraising very quickly. We went from our old co-packer to our current co-packer, which is one of the largest ice cream manufacturers in the country. And we opened up or started working with a national distributor, and we were able to open up their, I would say it's like 400 to 500 accounts within a few months, which was amazing. And that really opened the doors for us to, talk to different regional chains and grow beyond the SoCal region.
And where are you now?
So we are actually pulling back on the pints at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
We have a new product that we're very, very excited about called Discos.
Okay.
And they're essentially a 2-3 biter. It's dairy-free ice cream wrapped, covered in gluten-free cookie dough.
Oh my God. Sounds amazing.
Half the sugar, very clean ingredients, also functional.
And does it come like in like how many bites do you buy them separately or?
So it's 6 to a pack. Imagine a mochi, but it's not in the shape of a mochi.
Okay.
But that's kind of the experience you're getting, but with like very delicious and indulgent cookie dough.
This sounds amazing.
So
Can I be a tester?
Yes, you absolutely can. We launched them, or we did, this is like our test launch at Expo West, which is, the biggest natural food and beverage trade show in March. And it was a huge hit. We thought we wanted to see what the response was. We thought it'd be good. It blew our minds. So we won Best New Product by Veg News of the show.
That's amazing.
Which was awesome. And the various retailers that we were trying to reach before for the pints that, we were knocking down their door, they're now coming to us.
Cool.
So we know that like this product has legs.
Yeah.
And we're very excited, really excited to launch it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What's the time frame? Or you can fudge it, or just, give me the basic. You fudge it, pardon the pun. Just, what you would hope is the time frame.
So we're looking to launch these in the next few months.
Okay.
Hopefully take advantage of the warmer months.
Yeah.
Get it out there before the end of summer.
Yeah.
And then definitely we'll be working on, moving nationwide with the product next year.
What do you love most about this experience so far?
It's fun. It's challenging. It's all the things. I mean, every day is so different. I actually love the obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
I love putting out fires. I mean, I don't love the process of putting out fires, but once they've been put out, it's such a good feeling.
Yeah.
I'm a problem solver, so I think that's really exciting. And I get to touch every area of the business, and I'm learning constantly. So I always said from the beginning, I said, as long as I'm learning every day, I'm fine with whatever the outcome is. I will try my best. I will do my best. I will put, everything I have into this business, but I just need to be learning.
And what's the biggest lesson or a few biggest lessons you've learned so far?
I've learned that I'm resilient, and that, at the beginning, the first few obstacles we faced, I was like, oh no, the company's over. It's done. This is going to kill us. Like everything felt like such a big deal.
Yeah.
And I've learned that you can really overcome most of it, hopefully all of it.
Yeah.
And you can just get right back up. So things don't really affect me as much anymore. And I think that translates into other areas of life where I'm like, okay. And I think that helps my anxiety a bit. Like, you get hit in the face and you're like, okay, what next? I can survive this.
Well, you've survived a lot already.
Yeah.
One of the best pieces of advice someone gave me was the worst someone can say is no. And it's not personal.
Yeah.
It's just a no. So whatever, who cares? Keep moving forward and you'll find the yeses. And when you're young, that's like a no is heartbreaking because you take it so personally.
Yeah.
And how do you not like my product? How do you not like my foundation? Why aren't you donating? Why aren't you like supporting us? Why aren't you giving us money? Whatever it is, until you really internalize, it's just one no.
Yeah.
And lots of people say no and lots of people say yes. And you just have to keep moving on. I mean, it's a hard lesson to learn, but only learned when you're doing it.
You're going to get more no's than you are yeses.
Yeah.
And that was tough at first.
Yeah.
Especially with fundraising.
Yeah.
Most people will say no. And now it's just like, yeah, got it. Cool. No problem. And it even translated into like dating for me where I was like, okay, someone says no. I'm like, I brush it off. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Not meant to be. But yeah, you get used to it all. And I think those are really good lessons.
At such a young age, you've, really gone through a lot and you've conquered a lot. And so, I mean, it's weird to say, in your 30s, look back and say, what am I most proud of? But because I think you've been through so much, what at this point, beyond the lessons you've learned, what do you think, the things that you're really like proud of in a way that moving forward for the next few decades of your life, you're really like, and have internalized that you're going to take with you besides the resilience, or in addition to the resilience, in addition to, just keep working hard and take the no's and know there's yeses coming?
I think just like going back to the health stuff, like I've always been very scared of health complications and,
rightfully so.
Everyone around me, when my dad had cancer, I was like, what's going to happen? Like, it's scary. You get scared of losing the people around you or just having issues yourself. Like just saying cancer was such a scary thing to me. I think when they told me like, oh, you could have cancer, I was like, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
I'm going to die, even though thyroid cancer is totally manageable. I mean, most of the time manageable.
Yeah.
And so I think it taught me, because I've also had skin cancer. And I think that was really tough, even though also basal cell, very common, very normal. I think everyone when they're older has, basal cell cancer. So
people who go to dermatologists.
Right.
People who don't probably have it and don't know.
It. But I had a spot that was hurting on the back of my neck. And and that's taught me also get my skin checks I go every 6 months, even though most people should go once a year.
Yeah.
But that was really tough because it came a couple years after the thyroid. And then I went back into this mindset of like, oh no, okay, now I've had 2 forms of cancer. What does that mean for my future? I think the other piece of it is, this goes into a whole nother topic.
It's okay.
I don't know. Do you know my hair straightening story?
No, I want to hear it though.
Okay.
I love a good hair straightening story.
This will all have to come back around.
This is coming from someone who wears their
lesson.
tight, pulled back in a bun every day, so you can only imagine.
Yes. Okay. So, and we'll pull it back around to my lessons I've learned. But at the age of 9, I started doing chemical hair straightening.
At 9?
At 9.
Wow.
I was so upset with my hair.
Like a keratin treatment? Like the heavy chemical? It was called the Yugo
at the time, which was even like more
stronger.
Intense.
Yeah.
Permanent. And then by 12, I was doing keratin.
Okay. It's a lot of maintenance.
A lot of maintenance.
Yeah.
But I think I was just like kicking and screaming so much about my hair that my mom was like, whatever you want, do it.
I mean, you're lucky you grew up in the age of blow dries. Like I didn't have my first blow dry till I was 16 years old.
No one could properly blow dry.
No, it took an hour and a half. It was insane.
No one knew how to do my hair. I'll show you photos after. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, so I essentially was doing them for 20 years. I mean, I continued to do them after the thyroid cancer, but I started thinking about what am I doing in my daily life that, I can change, that I can make better. Okay, so I cut sugar for 2 years. I didn't touch sugar. And that helped me so much. And now, I have my bad days, but I'm better than I was. But I just had this pit in my stomach about this hair straightening process. I was like, what do I not know about this? Because they all say it's formaldehyde free, but like, why are my eyes burning? Why am I coughing?
And why is the person doing this wearing a giant N95 mask before we all knew what that even was?
Right. And I knew nothing. So I started doing my research and I was like, oh my God, this industry is covering up so much information. And the EWG had released a ton of research on the hair straightening processes that they're using very very illegal amounts of formaldehyde that, by saying it's formaldehyde free, they're avoiding warning labels. The hairdressers don't know. They're not listing ingredients and they're using ingredients that are essentially formaldehyde. It's like, okay, propylene glycol, like mixing water with formaldehyde. And they're saying it's not formaldehyde because it's not a gas. But then when you straighten the hair, it turns into a formaldehyde gas and you're breathing that in. So then I saw that there was a breast cancer study done that you're at 30% higher risk of breast cancer if you do these hair straightening treatments. And right away, I just said no more. And I quit it.
And how old were you at this point?
I was 29.
Oh, wow. So you'd been doing
years
like
ago.
3 times a year?
4 times a year for 20 years.
Okay.
And then I continued the research and I wanted to put it out there because everyone I knew was doing these treatments. I was like, no one has this information. And I wrote up this whole thing that I was going to post on Instagram. And as I was going to post it, a study came out about uterine cancer, that you're 4 times more likely to get uterine cancer if you are doing these hair straightening treatments. I don't know if you saw that. You did.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, it's a sign. I have to get this out there. I posted it. I've never received more DMs from people I do not know. Everyone was sending it around. All these women saying, thank you, I'm going to stop doing the treatments. And now like people are still spreading the word. Like I've told my friends, I've told everyone around me, which makes me so happy. But it just brings up more fear for me because I'm like, I'm seeing this big lawsuit happen now with all these women in their 30s that are getting cancer from the hair straightening treatments that can't have kids now, that, catch it at a later stage or whatever it is. And I'm like, oh no, is that going to be me?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'll never know what the thyroid is from. You can never be sure. But, then the skin cancer happened. And I was like, oh no, is the hair straightening? Am I prone to this? So I think it's, even though it's been tough at times, I think to go through all of this at such a young age, I think I am prepared for, certain battles or whatever battles that come in my life. And I just know, I guess this is back to resilience then.
Yeah.
I just know I can kind of tackle these things, but it's a process. I have to work on managing that anxiety.
Yeah. And you've given yourself real, tools. You've educated yourself and have dug really deep on the tools to help you through it, even though sometimes it's like hard to pull that tool out of your pocket or out of your tool belt. But you've clearly done the work. And so you're certainly prepared for whatever comes your way.
Yeah. And I think there's also a balance to all of this. Like right after the thyroid cancer, I was so strict and so regimented with, what I eat and my exercise and my products. I've thrown out all my beauty products, replaced, no fragrances, all like EWG verified products, which is great. But I think there's also a balance to be had with it all where if you become so obsessed, then it's not good for your mental health.
Agreed.
And so I'm trying to find that balance now where I'm like, okay, so occasionally I want to get a beautiful blowout and they're going to use some crappy product at the salon. I can handle that once in a while. I'm not going to touch keratin or Brazilian, and we're okay with that.
And I think finding balance is such a incredibly difficult thing to do. It's seemingly easy, but it's really hard. And to me, it's a lifelong process. And also we change. You're different at 9 when you started getting your hair chemically straightened.
Yeah.
And at 20 and now at 30 something years old, I think, our bodies change, what our wants, needs, and desires change, the way you see yourself, and also how you grow into yourself. And your hair is going to change no matter what, and your skin changes and all these things, and finding balance with how you feel about it, first and foremost, and then how you deal with the changes and how you deal with making decisions on how you're going to live your life in the minutia and also in the bigger picture.
Yeah.
That's a really hard thing, but it's, that's life. And that is, if you can do that with, trying to find the right tools to deal with it. Yeah. And then also while building a business, that's a major deal. That's a major kudos.
And I think the business does really stand for the balance piece for us because with the dessert, we were like, people should have fun and joy in their food and get to eat dessert. And sure, there might be a little bit of sugar in there, but you can have a couple bites. Yeah. And that can be really enjoyable for you. And the product can still be, clean ingredients and less sugar and all those things, but there's balance to it.
Yeah.
And you should be able to have a little bit of that in your life, I think. Yeah.
And sugar, there's different kinds of sugar in my opinion. There's really gross sugar in processed food. Yeah. Then there's berries, really fresh, ripe berries that are seasonal. Those have sugar in them, but that's, to me feels different. And then, there's other foods that have different kinds of sugar. But also when I think, treating yourself and being indulgent in a way that goes with your lifestyle is really important to life. You only live once. So you have to enjoy it, at some level. And cutting out all dessert is certainly not going to work. Yeah. Well, certainly not for me.
Yeah. It's so funny. I just had this argument with my mom. We were taking a flight together from New York, and I like to be prepared with some snacks when I go on the plane. Yes. Because I know that if I don't have healthy snacks with me, I will eat whatever is handed to me.
Yeah, definitely.
On the plane.
Yeah.
And she looked at my snacks and, it's like Simple Mills and a really healthy like chip brand. Yeah. And that's, baked and not fried and 3 ingredients and avocado oil. And she's like, oh no, like, why did you have to bring all these snacks? And I'm like, have have to have a little balance. Like I want a snack on the plane and let's just make it a healthy one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Oh yeah. My snack bag is quite large. Let me assure you. Even traveling with my family and traveling by myself. And that's like the best when all the snacks are just for me. But yes, you have to, because plane food is disgusting.
It is.
Even now, if you're like in first class, it doesn't matter.
Airport food.
And when you're hungry and you have no options, that's when you feel so gross after, and you're already flying and you're dehydrated and you're eating all this sodium-filled food. It's gross.
Yeah. It's the starvation on the airplane.
Yeah. It's so bad.
That's the problem.
So the last thing I want to ask you is, do you think this is the final, you're a true entrepreneur, and you've already done multiple things, created businesses and products. Is Holi Scoops it, or could you see yourself, doing something else in addition to in the future?
I would love Holi Scoops to be at least the next few years of my life. I am so attached to it. It's my baby.
It's your baby.
I want to see it grow and reach as many people as possible. But I think, there will eventually be an end to that. And I can't see myself stopping. That said, I haven't experienced motherhood. So I don't know what's to come. But it excites me to start businesses. And even when I consult for other companies, and I was just consulting on a popsicle brand and, basically setting up all the operations and helping the founder launch the product. And it wasn't my product, but it made me feel so great. And I was so excited about it. So I can see myself doing starting new companies after this.
Well, that's amazing. Well, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
I can't wait for the new product. It's like right up my alley. I mean, really, I'm really excited. But in the meanwhile, I'll keep eating my Holi Scoops ice cream. And then I will
savor it. There's not much left on the market.
There isn't. I know. And then I will look for my few bites. What's it called?
Disco by Holi Scoops.
Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to it. Thank you so much, Camille. This was really fun.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.